Daddy, is it true that the Liberals prorogued Parliament even more times than the Conservatives? And just what does it mean, anyway, to prorogue Parliament?
Ho, 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 son, you certainly do ask the most interesting questions. You must be reading the newspapers. And I think you mean prorogue.
Actually, Dad, Ms. Shebu, our teacher, talked about it today.
Well, that's good that you're learning things in school these days. But let's talk about prorogation. You know, don't you, that the Parliament sits in things called sessions, right?
Yes, Dad, I know. A parliamentary session is sort of like our school day, the parts between recess and lunch, right?
Yes, that's a good analogy, I suppose. So when the business of Parliament is finished for a session, the Prime Minister asks the Speaker of the House to prorogue Parliament to end the session.
Just like our school day. At 10:30 Ms. Shebu finishes our lessons and lets us out for recess until 11 o'clock. Do the members of Parliament get to go out and play too?
Some would say so. So generally when Parliament is prorogued, it's because the session is nearing its end, and Parliament has finished all its work, just as you at school have finished your morning's lessons.
Okay, I've got it. But what did the Conservatives do that was different?
Well, the Conservative government of Prime Minister Stephen Harper ended the parliamentary session early, not once, but twice. And they said that they were following the normal parliamentary procedure by proroguing Parliament.
But why, Dad? Why did they prorogue Parliament?
The first time it was because the opposition parties were threatening to form a coalition and form the government. The Conservatives wanted to avoid losing control of the government.
And the second time? What happened then, Dad?
The second time the opposition were asking embarrassing questions of the government about people detained by the Afghan government. They wanted to put an early end to the session to avoid those questions.
Huh? Just like today in school.
What happened today at school?
Well, just after school started this morning, Iggy started asking questions about when Ms. Shebu would finish marking our tests. Jackie was asking whether we couldn't all have an extra cookie with our milk in the afternoon, and Jill was asking why we couldn't spend more time on our French lessons.
Well, those are reasonable questions. What happened next?
Billy started making farting noises with his hand under his armpit, and Iggy asked if it wasn't true that we were falling behind in our schoolwork compared to the other classes.
Then what happened?
Ms. Shebu said that she had had enough and called us a bunch of little reprobates. She said that she was going to prorogue the morning's lesson, and that we were going to get an early recess that day, and that she was going to get an early happy hour.
And then?
So we went out for recess. We had a whole 2 hours for recess.
Well, that must have been fun, 2 hours outside in the snow. In January.
Yeah, but I forgot my mittens, so I had to go back in and get them. I saw Ms. Shebu drinking from a bottle. I asked her what it was, and she said it was Stony, a soft drink for adults.
Really? You don't say.
Yeah. Then, when we came back in from recess, Ms. Shebu was under her desk singing a song that she said was me and Bobby McGee.
Well, I can imagine that she would be singing.
Then Billy drank the rest of the soft drink. Later, he puked all over Ebu.
Well, son, I see you've learned a great deal about parliamentary procedure today. Not, I suppose, how it was meant to be, but it's good to know what's going on in the real world, isn't it?
I guess so, Dad. Do you think Ms. Shebu will be proroguing school again sometime? We had fun today.
I'm sure that you had fun today. But I think we'll have to have a talk with Ms. Shebu.